All right. Well, here we are, Leader Farming Podcast, and welcome virtually, Joe, to the farm. Hugo and I, Hugo's my co-host today. We're here on the farm in Georgia. And Joe, tell us where you are and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. All right, I am in Castle Rock, Colorado. It's about 30 miles due south of Denver, 30 miles due north of Colorado Springs. So kind of right in the middle, town of about 75,000 people. Have been here for about 13 years now, coming up on 14. Moved out here for the Chick-fil-A opportunity. Kind of originally from Pennsylvania, all over the place. Originally from Pennsylvania, grew up in Oklahoma, graduated college, moved to Texas, did a few other states here and there, but been in the hospitality business now for my entire adult career, 33 years. I said, now 13 years as a operator out here in Colorado.
Yeah. Awesome.
I don't know some other stuff too. I guess married also for 33 years.
Oh, wow.
I got to remember that I got my 33rd anniversary coming up here in about a month, so don't let that slip, right?
Yeah, don't forget that one.
Have three grown kids, 26, 23, and 20, two college graduates, and one who's a sophomore at the University of Colorado. So about 2 more years till we're completely free and clear of. We became empty nesters this year, but yeah, 2 more years to go on the college tuition and having everybody grown and on their own. So pretty excited.
Nice. Good stuff. Well, definitely appreciate you carving out some time to chat with us today. You and I have connected on several different occasions over the years, different restaurant related things. And, one of the things that we connected on recently was the whole Point University thing, which, you reached out to me and asking questions about that. And we talked about that with, I had Dean on the podcast this past episode and was able to tell a little bit of the backstory there. And so we're just really excited and honored to be able to bring that to others and the opportunity that provides for team members across the chain. It's a pretty amazing, game-changing thing. So we're really excited about it. But hey, with that said, talking about team members, I had some recent conversations about just life in general with a few team members. And, as we talk about all the time here on the podcast, it's just this idea of growth and seasonal growth mindset. And one of those things that the world perpetuates is just that it has to be, every day has to be better than the day before. Every month has to be better than the month before. Every quarter has, and so I think that causes so much anxiety and so much stress in this generation. And I was having a conversation recently with a team member that was really just stressed and confused about life and felt somewhat depressed about their current situation and felt like working at the restaurant was not moving them forward and that they were not growing. And so, I was able to really encourage them and help them see this particular point in their life as a season and how they are in fact growing, and how even though it seems like maybe a winter season for them, or it seems like somewhat dormant during this period of time, that I was able to help them pull out some of the things that are happening in their life that are actually causing them to grow deeper in who they're becoming. And, like we talk about their root structures growing deeper. So their character and the things that are, we used an analogy, the whole, iceberg analogy, what's above the waterline, below the waterline. But, I talk about, what's below the surface, what's below the soil, like what's everybody can see outside is the blooming, trees are budding, it's full out spring. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why my sinuses are, I may sound a little different today because my
Exactly.
sinuses are going. Yeah. But but then what's really going on underneath the surface that stabilizes the crop or the tree, or that helps it keep its base whenever a storm comes and that sort of thing. So I would love for you to share from your life and your perspective, whether it's personal or business, or but just give us a story about a winter season, a difficult season in your life, and how you have grown from that, or looking back, what you saw as something that made you, help develop you into the person that you are today.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have, I have so many stories about that. And one of the reasons I was just honored to come on here, and it's been great to connect with you about this thought process of, of seasonal growth, is because I think I had never thought about it that way. So yeah, I want to encourage myself and others to think about it in terms of like this, because when you think about it consciously in the moment, it can help you make better decisions, as opposed to when we started talking about this, you're like, yeah, I've got stories, and I look back on things retrospectively, I can see that it's like, wow, if I would have done that on purpose, it would have been a whole different approach, as opposed to, again, you realize you're going through those seasons. And the first one that came to my mind is just even going back to early on in my management career. I was um, I don't know, I guess like a high performing manager at a national chain. I worked for worked for Chili's, and we got to this point where I was told I was a high performing manager. I was kind of next on the list to be promoted to general manager. So I kind of was waiting my turn in order to get to do that. And then I kind of had just this season where because I think I knew I was next, I was kind of playing the game not to lose, and started playing things safe and not really being myself. I wasn't making decisions. I was trying to live off of kind of my reputation of who I was. With a long story short, had a, I don't know what you would call it, maybe just a bad situation that happened with a team that could have actually derailed and ruined my career at that point. Luckily, my reputation kind of saved me at that point, but I was told that, hey, in order to save your career, we need you to, I was living in Dallas, Fort Worth at the time. We need you to move to St. Louis and do this a favor and open a restaurant for us. Otherwise, things aren't looking very good here. So just kind of that situation happened. And so we did. I ended up selling my house, moving to St. Louis, got into a rental house, and I got into this winter season of like, I just sold the first house that I bought. We moved to an unfamiliar town. We don't know anybody. I'm here with my wife. We had a 9-month-old baby at the time. The rental house was just depressing. The new restaurant was depressing. Had a general manager who was unqualified to be a general manager. I came from Dallas, Fort Worth, which was kind of like Chick-fil-A to Atlanta. Chili's was the Dallas. Like, you had your best performers. You had the corporate office there. We had sharp people. It was highly competitive. Going to St. Louis, it was the very first restaurant, and they just kind of grabbed people from all over the country to open it. So we had inexperienced managers and inexperienced general manager, people who didn't know what the brand was. And I was just stuck there like, what am I doing here? Like, I mean, I was at the top of my game. Now I'm down here in this market where nobody knows who we are. The team members aren't that great. They don't know what they're doing. But then I kind of realized, well, what am I going to do? Like, I mean, am I going to quit? Like, because if I quit, do I stay here? This isn't our home. And if I quit, do I move back to Dallas? Because the only reason I was there was because I had a career. Or where do I go? So just kind of, borderline behave like being, in depression, and like, I just don't know what to do. Luckily, I didn't really have any choice other than to go, okay, well then here's what I'm going to do. Like, I'm just going to reinvent myself. I'm just going to focus on the team. I'm going to focus on the community. I'm going to focus on making decisions. I'm going to plant seeds. I'm going to grow people. I have nothing to lose, right? I'm just going to go all in. And I should have prefaced this story with a backstory to the fact that when I was at the high, I had my boss's boss actually had come into me once and said, hey, Joe, I know you want to get promoted. You want to move up, but you're never going to get promoted. If you want to get promoted, stop trying to be a general manager and stop trying to think that you deserve it. You're not going to get promoted until, he goes, I can't tell you when you're going to get promoted. I can't tell you the day. I can't tell you the time, but I can tell you when. And it's going to be when you least expect it. And it's when you least expect it because you're just acting like a leader. You're not trying to be a leader for somebody else's sake to prove anything to anybody. You're just going to be doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And that's what's going to carry you. So now I fast forward, I was making all these decisions for 4 months. We ended up I was just making decisions kind of behind the general manager's back, but for the benefit of the team. Like we're going to go down the wrong road. So I'm just going to tell him, hey, listen, just go play golf, go do something. I got it. We're going to open a great restaurant. And about 4 months later, I got called into a meeting. I was told to stay after a meeting by an area director. Hey, Joe, can you stay after the meeting today? And I was like, oh man, I'm in trouble. The GM found out I was making all the decisions, and I'm going to get yelled at or I'm going to get fired because I'm doing this stuff. And so he said, hey, we just want to let you know that we've been paying attention. We had a couple of, higher ups who have noticed that this restaurant wouldn't have got open had you not been doing what you were doing. So we want to know if you'd like to be promoted to general manager, come Monday and move to a new restaurant in Illinois. And I was like, man, and all of it instant flashback to, a year prior, with my boss telling me, I can't tell you when, but it's going to be when you least expect it. And sure enough, it was when I least expected it, because I was walking in there thinking I might be getting fired. That's actually what I was thinking. And I'm walking into this meeting, I might get fired, but I walked out promoted, but I wasn't even thinking about it because I had just given myself to, again, like I got to reinvent myself. I got to plant seeds. I got to focus on everybody else instead of focusing on that winter season of woe is me, what's in it for me, all that focus on yourself. So anyway, that was one of the things like early on in my career that helped me realize that, when you focus on the things of yourself, which is sometimes what happens in winter, winter season, is instead of focusing on spring, better things happen when you focus on planting seeds.
Yeah, that's so good. I love the thought and the principle that you shared about how, it's almost just like letting go, right? Because if we think that it's all up to us, it's all up to me, and we grasp things with a tight fist, it's those are the times when things typically don't work out. But it's when we kind of open-handedly say, you know what, like this is not fully up to me. I'm not going to make this about me. And
you hear that?
Yeah, no, you're good. So yeah, we're like, not going to make this about me, and I'm going to make this about other people. And so we kind of just let go of the things that we feel are totally our responsibility and in our control. So how about, just maybe take what you've shared and share with us, like, what would you think are the key thoughts and lessons from that particular experience, or drawn from other experiences that you would like to share with those out there listening that are younger, folks that maybe are part of your team that you can share this with later, like you want them to hear your story. What is something you want them to hear about your experience in your life, and then what you learned from that?
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, I think the danger of, first of all, like I want to encourage people to think about things in terms like this, in terms of seasons, in terms of that spring. I think thinking in terms of things like spring, summer, winter, fall seasons, and realizing that seasons are life. It's inevitable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like you mentioned at the beginning, we have this thought of that, hey, I want things to always be better. I want it to always be spring. It's like, well, that's not how life works. That's not how the universe works. It just doesn't work that way. So when you realize, like, if the world and the universe doesn't work that way, why do you think you're going to be any different? You're just not going to be. So I think one of the big dangers of the winter season is falling into this mindset of, and I think I heard Elon Musk talk about it a year ago, you fall into this mindset of wishful thinking, right? Like, and to me, that's what winter season is. It's like, well, I wish things were different. I wish I wasn't here. I wish I didn't have to do this. I wish I didn't have to deal with this. And that's kind of focusing on yourself. And that's just what winter is, right? It's dark and cold, and you're wishing for something else. And I think what happens is it's okay that happens, right? I mean, I can go back and tell you some more stories where, hey, I learned a great lesson from that first story that I told you, and then I found myself, well, like 8 years later, repeating the same thing again, right? Because, well, guess what? I'm human. We're all human, and we make those mistakes. That's why having the seasonal mindset makes you can allow you to realize, where am I and what do I need to do differently. And I think spring comes from, again, turning that focus outwards, away from wishful thinking and towards others and towards a bigger picture, kind of like that garden. Like that, I can't grow a garden. I can't grow a garden of flowers without planting seeds and focusing on the flowers, or
Right.
focusing on what I'm planting. If I'm focusing on myself, nothing grows, including me, right? But if I focus on everybody else, all of a sudden everything grows, and then I can grow. So I just don't think you can plant seeds that way. So I like the idea of thinking that. I think it would just be better to think about those in terms of doing that in the future, and not necessarily um, always looking on things in retrospect. I think one other thing that we can do is, I think we can fall into the trap as leaders and as human beings with kind of not allowing summer to arrive. We just don't allow summer to get here. And then, because like I said, you want that new idea. Like, I think the next that spring mentality is, hey, I have a new idea, I want to do it. And instead of allowing that idea to get into summer and work hard on that idea, it's like, okay, I don't have instant success, so I'm going to rewind back to spring and try to come up with a new idea. And then when that idea doesn't work, I'm going to rewind back to spring and try to come up with a new idea. And we just never get to summer. We don't ever put in the work that it takes in order to get to fall and then have the harvest of whatever it was that we were trying to do, whether it was growing relationships or growing a program, developing other people. We kind of just keep looking for the next best idea, the flavor of the month. But that's just a wheel, unfortunately, that you spin. It's a hamster wheel, and you just don't ever end up making any progress.
Yeah. Hugo, I saw you write some stuff down. Do you have some thoughts?
Definitely. No, I think that, as Zach asked the question, what's something you could share, even I myself being in somewhat a similar position that you were telling when you were telling your story, right? Like, I work for, with Zach at Chick-fil-A, being in that director of operations right now, kind of focusing on continuous improvement. Um, I was able to, sympathize with you because I feel like I've been through that. I feel like there was a period in time in a season in my life where I felt like, okay, I got comfortable, like, I'm in a good position, I'm working for somebody that trusts me, and I just got complacent. And that's one of the things that I was just thinking. And there was a lot of wishful thinking, right? Like, hey, like, hopefully this will happen, hopefully that would happen. And when things didn't actually bear any fruit, like, I felt defeated. I felt like, man, I was just looking for that instant success of, I'm in a great position. I know if I put a system in place, a process in place, my team is going to do great. And then when things weren't going the way I was planning, I would go back and, okay, let's just, scratch that. Let's think of something better. And so, like, there's a lot of key lessons that you're talking about that I think a lot of the leaders, and upcoming leaders have definitely either experienced or will experience in the future, because that's part of, being a leader. That's the journey. It's like a never ending journey. Like, I think that we have this idea of, like, man, when I become a leader, I made it. And there's no such thing as, you made it when you became a leader. Like, it's always a never ending journey. But I think being able to accept the fact that it's like never ending, but you're always going to learn something new, and that there will be those tough times, but then there's always going to be those, wins, that those, springs that you're always going to harvest and say, man, that was great. That's what I was, kind of just laughing and not smiling, because it's great. I mean, the way you're putting it, it's awesome that, this idea of seasons, at the same way that you expressed it, like, when I began to see my life in seasons, and both my professional and my personal life, like, it changed my view on everything that I had around me, and those that I was impacting, and also those that were having an impact in my life. So
And I
thanks for
think
sharing.
I think something, too, that you had to be, like you were mentioning, I think we can fall into, like I had done before, where you kind of get complacent. I think what happens before the winter season is that you can get to fall as well. And you can fall in love with fall to a certain extent, which we do, which means that you just keep trying to harvest and harvest what you planted. Like I planted something. Well, I just want to keep harvesting and reharvesting and living off of like my past. Hey, I had this great idea, and I just want to kind of keep trying to do that over and over and realizing, well, but the world's changing and growing around you. So you just can't live off of your past successes or your past ideas. I've got to keep reinventing. Like every year, the world reinvents itself through spring. So you can't just do that. Trying to live off of your reputation or live off what got you there and go, hey, look, I'm here. So can I just keep living off of what I did like a year ago or 2 years ago without ever going back and replanting something? So
Right.
you could fall in love and you can get stuck there. And I'll be teaching a master class to some of our leaders later today. And one of the stories, I'm actually going to, have a previous team member of mine from 26 years ago who's going to join us on a call there.
Wow.
And one of the lessons there that I want to teach them as well, speaking of these seasons and speaking of like summer and focusing on, hey, like everything matters, right? Like all of the hard work you're doing matters. I said, hey, back 26 years ago, I was a general manager at a Chili's in a extreme suburb of Dallas Fort Worth that was doing about $20,000 in sales a week. 20,000 a week, open 7 days. So you could do the math.
Wow.
That's less than $3,000 a day.
Wow.
Okay, well, at Chick-fil-A, we might do $3,000 before 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay, this was all day, and I was a general manager of that restaurant. You try to put together a staff and keep people motivated to do $3,000 a day in sales. People did. I mean, I didn't have a bartender. I had a bartender / expo / dishwasher / host. Like we all did it all. And that was very challenging. And it's like, but part of my question to them is like, what is me running the lowest volume Chili's in the country, okay, at $3,000 a day, 26 years ago, have to do with me being a multi-unit operator for Chick-fil-A today? It's like, it has absolutely everything to do with it, because even though we're only doing $3,000 a day, that wasn't the point. The point is, how can I use every day that I come into this restaurant to hone my skills, to grow my leadership, to be the best? It's like the sales number didn't matter. It's like, what did I do with it, right? That's what I learned from that previous lesson. Again, that was my second general manager assignment. So thank goodness I went through that winter season in St. Louis and learned my lesson, which is like, where I'm at doesn't matter. My situation necessarily doesn't matter. It's like, what am I doing with it? And am I aware that, hey, like I'm in street, this is a summer, this is where the hard work comes, and nobody may notice. That's fine. I'm not looking for accolades. I'm not looking for somebody to come in here and pat me on the back. I'm just looking to learn and grow. And I can honestly tell you that I probably learned more from that slow restaurant and the people. I said, I stay in touch with the team members that I have from there 26 years ago.
Yeah.
There's some team members who may have left Chick-fil-A 2 years ago that I've lost touch with, but man, when I was working that hard, and the lessons that I learned in leadership from trying to manage a small team of 14 people are what allow me to be able to manage a team of 200 people today. So you can't, and again, that's the hard part. I mean, Zach, you were saying it's like the younger team members, like I want the flash, I want the glitz, I want the glory, I want the big event, I want to be recognized.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, yeah, but what I did is I managed the lowest volume restaurant in the entire, and Chili's isn't a small chain, the lowest volume restaurant in the entire chain. But I think I can look back and say, thank God I did that, because if I wouldn't have been there, then I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Well, I think that our culture is so counter to what we're talking about when you bring up summer. And what I hear you saying is cultivating perseverance, cultivating grit, just that ability to just go out there in the heat and the sweat and do what's necessary to, maintain the garden, right? And I share in my book, one of the principles is that I believe that the single greatest predictor of success in young people these days is the ability to delay gratification. And so if they can do, and again, it's like, in their minds, it's like, okay, yeah, I can wait till next week.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, 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 no. No, I'm not talking about next week. I might not even be talking about next year. Um, and so it's just being able to look at things and say, you know what, and kind of going back to your story, um, I'm willing to place my agenda on pause, and I'm willing to accept the fact that my promotion or that spring, that thing is going to happen when I least expect it. And so in order to have that patience and to create and cultivate perseverance and grit, you almost have to just accept the fact that you're not in control. And it's just so countercultural because these everybody that's pretty much alive right now has been introduced to the well, you hear people call the microwave culture, or the fast food culture. Like everything is instant, it's expected right then, right now. And the more we can do to cultivate this delayed gratification and this ability to persevere in the midst of a winter season or a storm, I think that is a big predictor of our future long-term success in life. So let's feel free to share any more on that if you want, but also want to take the opportunity to just pick another season and share a story from either a spring, summer, or fall in your life, and then we'll kind of bring
Yeah.
things to a close after that.
Well, I mean, when I thought of another story, but I don't know that it's necessarily. It's probably the same. It's winter again, and I think
That's
I think the reason for it goes back to my point. Like I said, like even if you learn that lesson the first time, and I did I learned that and took that to my again, being that general manager of the lowest volume restaurant, and I'd learned those lessons, and it was great. Well, I could fast forward about 7 or 8 years, and then again, when that starts to get in the rear view mirror a little bit, you again, human, it's like, it's just, your guard drops, and you don't realize I'm taking back on some of these old habits, because you start having successes and then you just start doing the same thing again. It's like I start racking up successes, because by that time I had gotten promoted to I moved on from that restaurant to the 4th highest volume restaurant in Dallas Fort Worth. Okay, then I got promoted to be a regional training director at the corporate office. Then I moved on to being an area director for them, and I was supervising 6 restaurants. So again, you start, I don't know, kind of gaining this weight of like, okay, I have this huge garden, I don't want to ruin anything. So you just kind of change what you're doing. Instead of constantly pruning and putting the work in, you just kind of start to settle back. And I had gotten to be an area director, but also, again, part of it had a bad situation. The fact that I had a new boss came in from the outside of the organization. Long story short, again, just he was trying to weed out people, and just not for the right reason, but not weed out underperformers, but weed out people that aren't my guy or my girl, and I want to put my own people in, type of thing. So it wasn't really a good situation. So again, I kind of got to, I mean, to be fair, I was stuck in that fall season of trying to live off of all of the past successes, and kind of try to harvest over and over and over again. And he kind of forced me into winter. Didn't do it the right way, but still nonetheless kind of forced me into this winter back of wishful thinking of, I wish I had my previous boss back, and I wish things were going a different way. And I'm kind of being unfairly judged and evaluated and told to do things that I don't agree with. But then I guess I don't know, realize that, hey, I'm back in a similar situation I was before. I'm just going to focus on my restaurants and my teams. I'm going to focus on growing. I'm going to focus on doing the things that I need to do. And when I started doing that, I'm going to start acting like an owner, and just like I own the business. And that's when I said, hey, I'm going to look outside. And I was going through the operator selection process with Chick-fil-A. I said, I've just got to get to be who I want to be as an owner, as I go through this process, and managed to kind of work my way up from there was about, I think 162 area directors in the company at the time. And I think when I started off, I was ranked 157th out of 162. So you talk about winner, couldn't get. So again, I had done all this stuff to get to a point, and then I kind of settled down and stopped taking risk and stopped growing. And it's okay, I'm going to get back to focusing on people, focusing on things. So within, again, 2.5 years, had gone from 157th to being ranked 3rd in the company. Like,
Wow.
okay, here comes this lesson again, right? Like, stop wishful thinking, stop focusing on yourself, and start doing the right things. And then, of course, my reward was Chick-fil-A was like, hey, I think you're doing a great job. We're going to offer you an opportunity to become an operator,
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so it's just that constant thing. So I think my encouragement is to say, it's great to think about these. That's why I love the idea. Think about this thought process of seasonals and us going through seasons of spring, summer, fall, winter is like, 1, be aware of it. 2, don't fight it. 3, like live it, because you're going to live it.
Yeah. Whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not, and whether you're aware of it or not. Like I was like, here, I just went through this 10 years before, but here I go through it again. Well, and I'm like, that's not my fault. To a certain extent, is you got to own it, right? So I can do something about it. But guess what? You're human, and seasons happen. So seasons are going to happen to you. What do? Just recognize what your season you're in and do the most you can with it, right? And then good things happen. So it's like A, don't be unaware that seasons happen. B, don't fight it. C, live it. So it's just it's like, oh, wait a second, deja vu all over again, right? So here we go. It's winter again.
Yeah, I don't know that I could sum things up any better than what you just did. So, I don't know if you intentionally did this, but I heard multiple times throughout our conversation, you shared language. It kind of goes back to what you just said of like, whether you realize it or not, you're going to live it. And so, you multiple times you said, planting seeds and harvest and weeding out, use that in turn, and so we use these terms all the time in reference to business in our everyday lives, and we don't really make the connection to the fact that it really is how the world operates, and it really is this seasonal thing that I believe God designed for us and shows us every single day. And so if we pay attention to it, it's kind of a map and a model for our lives, and it really does help when you realize, oh, my life isn't over. It's just winter.
Right.
And so yeah, well, thanks again for your time, and any final thoughts?
No, I agree. Like I said, it's a matter of, I think that you said there's the 2 things that young people today can fall into the trap of. 1 is wanting to hurry, and B is wanting then to just, again, blame or become discouraged when they get to winter. Like, like, this is my fault and I wish I wasn't here. It's like, no, it's like winter happens. Yep. It's okay.
Winter happens.
Winter happens. Just realize that winter happens. Yeah, that'd be a good
bumper sticker, right? Yeah. Maybe we should.
Yeah.
Maybe we should produce that. Winter happens.
Sometimes winter happens because it kind of comes along, and then the only escape from winter is spring. But like, spring has to be you driven. Like, winter isn't always us driven. It just kind of, it drifts and it comes in sometimes, like the world works, right? Seasons work. Winter just shows up sometimes when we weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But once I realize I'm there, I can go, hang on, let me figure out what's going on. Okay, this might last for a little while, but here's my way out. And then you can plan, and you can start to behave and goal set and focus on the right things. So it's spring. The great thing about winter is that's a reminder for young people. You might be in winter, but spring is what comes next.
Yeah,
and
it's right around the corner.
It's right around the corner, and it's coming, and like, you can make it happen.
Yep. Unless you keep moving, like, and that's the thing, like, they can keep themselves in a perpetual winter if they're not careful, because they're
Correct.
like, well, spring's coming, but I'm going to avoid it by moving to the North Pole,
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, a great point. And again, thank you so much for being here, taking the
Oh,
time out of your day.
my
And
pleasure.
I'm honored to have you and just to hear your story and be able to share that with the world. So thanks so much, Joe. And look forward to having you again on here someday in the future.
I'll look forward to it. I
Thank you.
appreciate you guys.
All right.